Hi, Boo. Chip. Hello, baby. I got a good little chip. I'm sure at some point during the recording of this video you will hear it, but it is raining outside. I don't think I can tell. Yeah, you can kind of tell it's raining out there. It's raining outside right now. We've had a lot of rain this week. It's severe weather season in Nebraska, which means that it's kind of also at sometimes tornado season. Over this weekend, we had some like tornado warnings in parts of the state and around Iowa and in Kansas. Um, but we have been okay, thankfully. I don't think I've heard of any major, um, yes, there's been destruction, obviously, with tornadoes and the storms. We got a lot of down branches in our area from the severe thunderstorms we've had gone through. But yeah, so you'll probably hear the rain. Literally just before I started recording, it was just like pouring. And that probably definitely would have picked up on the mic. So we'll see what happens there. Other things. I am a fan of the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So for my birthday, my mom got me the Last Show with Stephen Colbert shirt that they had. Money for this went to World Central Kitchen, which I am a big supporter of. I very much approve of what they do. They take food to crisis areas where there's been storms, where there is war, where there is different things like that. They are awesome. And also the bunny ears, which are not going to stay on for very long, are because and I did a video about this earlier this week, just a short little video about the fact that so I had been waiting for like 422 subscribers to do like a little thank you video. I know it's not like in the algorithm to be like, hey, 422 is a big number, but April 22nd is my birthday, so 422 has always been like just like a number that I associate with stuff with me. So I hit 422, and then right after that, 423 subscribers at some point earlier this week. So thank you for that. I did a whole little thank you video about that with Chip helping me. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. Time for the video, she says, pointing her bunny ears at the camera. So, time for this chapter review. Oh boy. Close my eyes and the flashback starts. So, we have chapter 1183 titled Good Morning Mermaid, which is just adorable. So, our cover page for today is actually very cute. It is the Straw Hats all celebrating with like a mama elephant, I'm assuming, and like her baby elephant, with like them all being shot up on like the jet stream from the trunk of the elephant, and it says make a splash is what the I guess is the title of it. So it's just like the Straw Hats having fun. And because I know that elephants have popped up a couple of times in the series, I'll get to the very obvious one in a moment. But I knew that there was at least a couple of other cover page, not like the individual cover pages, but like the color page spreads where they've had the Straw Hats with elephants before. And I think at least one or two of them got turned into like something of like the openings. But there was way back in chapter 537, that was a cover that had the Straw Hats with, I think they're feeding a bunch of little like elephant birds. A bunch of little elephants that are flying around like birds. And then in chapter 660, which is, I believe, where we get reintroduced to Law, we see the Straw Hats are, I believe, they're on top of like a little mechanized elephant thing, which is just adorable. I think there's at least a couple of like the individual, like, Animal Theater cover pages where there's elephants, but those were the two main ones I could think of where they had elephants involved. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out, before getting to the obvious one, is that in one of Uta's songs in the music video for it, and of course this comes because I like dissected those dang music videos and songs for Uta back when Film Red came out, there is in one of her songs, it's I'm Invincible, which is her second song in the movie, her second big number in the movie. Or in the movie when she's flying around and capturing Burley and Oven and the other Big Mom pirates that are there. And then in the music video, at one point in time, she is sitting on top of an elephant while it's like roaming around the desert while she's singing. Again, I wanted to point that out. I don't know if that's going to have a bearing on anything, but I remember noting it in the music video when I talked about it. And of course, the big main time that we interact with elephants in One Piece is, of course, Zunesha. In regards to Zunesha and Zunesha's connection to the Void Century and stuff like that. So I at least wanted to highlight those here. I don't know if they're going to have any bearing on anything else that's going to happen in the story, but I at least wanted to point those out because I thought that they were an interesting way of doing this. So, into the chapter for Good Morning Mermaid, which starts off with Emu, who is not a mermaid, to the best of our knowledge. So we have Emu is staring down Ragnar and Loki in his Needhog form. So he's like, and Emu is talking to them while he's addressing Ragnar. Nushia. So Nushia is like, so how Mu has different like specialized pronouns for himself, because Emu is Mu whenever he refers to himself. Nushia is kind of like his version of you, as in like when he is addressing someone directly, like, you did this, you are doing this, you have been waiting type of thing. So it's kind of like his version of that. And don't know if this is we'll see how they kind of translate this into English, but we have Mu and then Nushia for the way that this goes. So he's like, Nushia had long waited for one who can exact revenge upon Mu. So it's like, you have been waiting a long time for someone who can help you exact revenge upon me. Is that not so? And Ragnar just screeches at him in squirrel form. It's just funny. And we have Loki still there in his giant Needhog form, and he's like, enough of the chatter. I've never seen a bastard that's that tough before. So he's acknowledging that Emu is very tough. To be fair, Emu, we don't know if Emu has the exact same healing abilities that the Gods Knights have that we've seen Summers and the others all show off. So we don't know if Emu has those or if he's a bit more restricted on that. We'll have to wait and find out. Emu is now actually addressing two people by their actual names. Loki, Straw Hat Luffy. Nushia and thy kind were never destined to serve Mu. Thus, here and now shall Mu wipe thee from existence. So, he has said Loki. He addressed Loki as Loki. He has mentioned Luffy, who Emu at least knows that there's the connection. We knew that he at least knew the connection between Luffy and Joy Boy and going back to Nika, but barring something in the official translation shifting this, which would be kind of hard to do because like the names are a little bit more easy to be like, yeah, no, he's talking about them. Barring something in the official translation adjusting that, Emu has now directly referred to Loki and Luffy as who they actually are and not just as Needhog or Joy Boy. To be fair, Emu hasn't interacted with Luffy yet, but still. So he's like, yeah, so you were never destined to serve me, and thus I am going to have to wipe you from existence. That's a great thing to get to see. So now we get like an awesome double page spread here where we're going to have Loki in Needhog form attack Emu. So Emu has pulled up his polearm weapon and he's like, as was the case with Dozen. So I'm pointing this out now. We don't know who Dozen is. There is another character in One Piece that has a similar name, Dosun, who is the Hammerhead Sharkman from the New Fishman Pirates, who gets his butt kicked in Fishman Island. I at least wanted to point out that they have a similar sounding name To be fair, there's lots of characters in One Piece that sometimes have like similar sounding names, but this one seemed at least similar enough that I wanted to point it out. Again, have no idea if that's going to be any type of relevant, but I wanted to point it out because I'm me and other people might as well. So, Imu is activating, I'm assuming, some other type of his Maki or the Omen again to adjust the weapon, and the weapon gets bigger, and we see like the black flames type things are like coming off of the blades as it gets bigger, and he and Loki clash, and we have Loki using Twinheim, and then Emu using Grammar. So the rough translation for this was the Ragnar Twinheim is what Loki is using. Ragnar Twinheim is just kind of a reference to the Ragnarheim that we saw him use before, just one of the other lightning attacks we saw him use before. And then Twinheim is just supposed to be just this like two like Iron Hammer twin strong arm type thing. So it's like supposed to be like a doubly strong attack, is I'm assuming what that's supposed to be representing or referencing. And then Emu using the grammar or gram is a reference to a sword from Norse mythology that I don't think I found very much on, but it's a sword from Norse mythology. I don't remember who uses it, but it's a sword from Norse mythology is what he's referencing there. And it's the Blade of Wrath is, I believe, what it is. So we get them clashing. Now we're going to cut over to the Western Village. And we have the giant Zaza Muma showing up there. And we have several, she's making, it's whatever is making it rain, just like downpour, which is good. Although it looks like, did the rain stop? I don't think the rain stopped. Zaza shows up in the manga. We get lots of rain in Nebraska. I don't think that's not a coincidence. We get rain here all the time this time of year. But, the village is flooding. And we have several of the giants are out there going, bring the kids back to safety. So they're all trying to save them. And now we have this other great double page spread where we see the kids are like caught within Zaza's actual body, like the water of the body. And to be fair, they look like they're holding their breath, but I don't know, again, since we don't know the full parameters of this, if like the kids are actually able to breathe in here or not. I don't know. But we have the parents are standing back up again. We have Ilva's mother, and it was like, we won't let you take them away. And we have Ripley standing up, and it was like, after all we did to save them. And we have Oimo, and it's just like, we aren't handing over the children. So they're all standing back up, and they're all still covered in bandages because, of course, they got stabbed by all the thorns. And we see Ange is here as well, and she's pulled out her axe, and all of them have their weapons out. Because they're going to go save the kids again. So they're all just raring up to do that. And it's like, and we have Chopper yelling at them, stop, all of you, don't move a muscle. The blood transfusion's not complete. You'll really die at this rate. So it's like, Chopper is just like, you have to stop. You can't keep moving right now. And Ripley is like, doesn't matter at all. That doesn't matter at all. And she's like, we'd rather die than let the children be taken. Which is, again, I love this for what they're showing here. This is just like that same carryover from like what happened with Summers, with the adults willing to sacrifice themselves to grab the children so the children at the very least wouldn't die alone as they jumped off the cliffs. And then, they got saved and everything, and now the thorns are gone, but now they're being captured by the Muma. And we get a really good demonstration of like the 4 arms that Zaza has in this chapter, because we have 2 of the arms. The two right arms are like what have the children in them. And then the other 2, her left 2 arms are like stabbing down at the village, like kind of like attacking down or like blocking the attacks. And we see each of them are firing off. And I believe we see, the mother that's like the mother that the mother Muma was based off of. Mag's mother, I think, is firing, and we see all of them like letting off their attacks as they're trying to attack the Muma. And of course, this is that same concept of like, this love, the strongest power in the world, love is, can surpass so many things, can surpass all of this. And it's like they will fight. They are not just because they're warriors of Elbath, but because they are parents, they are older siblings, they are teachers, they are these protectors. They are the ones who are supposed to help protect the children. And they will get back up and they will keep fighting to their last breath to protect not just their own child, but the other children as well. So we have that here. We're seeing that here with them all getting back up. And then we have Killingham. Prick. It's like 7 of them. Ha, fine, enough. Let's move. Ha, fine, enough. Let's move, Zaza. So he's ordering Zaza, who we can kind of tell has a more feminine body here. Problem is that Sanji's on his way. And the problem is with that is obviously Sanji generally doesn't want to attack anything that is female. Now, I don't know if Sanji is going to be willing to attack something that is very clearly female, because we can kind of see a ample bosom in this picture. But if Sanji is willing to attack something that is female, even though it is not actually real, that it is like this manifestation of a dream thing, I don't know if Sanji is going to be able to bring himself to attack it. That's going to be a question here. It's like, I get him not being, I get him to a degree not being able to attack someone who is actually female, like an actual female person in front of him, like not wanting to attack Big Mom or fight Black Maria and stuff like that on Wano and on Whole Cake. Or he doesn't want to do that because of the promise that, he made the Zeph. And so I get that. But I'm kind of hoping it doesn't transfer into, this thing is a giant nightmare monster. You can effing attack it, Sanji. It's fine. It's not real. Type of thing. And I don't know how Sanji is going to feel about that. I don't think we get a conclusion to that in this chapter. We just have Sanji showing up at the village and seeing what's going on here. And he's like, what the hell is that supposed to be? And like, that's the last time that we see Sanji in this chapter. So I don't know how that's going to resolve. That's going to be one of those questions where it's just like, I could see at least Sanji hesitating. But then it's, it's like, this thing is not real. This thing is just like this nightmare monster. It can be destroyed. It's not a real, actual living woman. It doesn't have real Y chromosomes. Excuse me, real X chromosomes. Sorry. It doesn't have real X chromosomes, Sanji. You can attack it. It's fine. It's not real. It is a manifestation of Killingham's own fears, who you just liked having to beat the heck out of. So do it again. Now we cut away from that and we're going to cut into the more meat of the chapter where we get like this whole chunk of this flashback. And we're going to get a lot of answers. Some answers and a few more questions, but answers nonetheless. So we cut over to the ice block. And we see like the smoke clearing from the ice block where Gunko is still frozen in the ice block. And she seems fine. The ice maybe looks a tad cracked, but Gunko seems like she is still very much trapped in the ice block. And of course, Killingham and Summers, I think, saw Gunko like this, and he thought that she was dead. And of course, Emu just kind of like threw the explosion at it, But Loki had said that it's like nothing can get through that ice, and the only thing that's going to thaw it is Ragnar. So we'll have to see how that goes. So we cut closer and we see that Gunko is still in there. She's still like unconscious. She's essentially in like cryogenic stasis, is essentially what she's in right now. Not the first time that's happened in this series. Probably won't be the last, but not the first time. But she's like kind of cryogenically frozen at the moment, which is kind of what we were expecting. And then we have Usopp's voice coming over, and it's like, Brooke, you and that woman, why'd you go fight her? I could tell something was seriously wrong, so I jumped in. So this is like, this is referring back to, of course, when Brooke had gone off to go fight Gunko, where he's like, I recognized you. I couldn't believe my eyes. How are you, Princess Shuri? You murdering princess, you patricidal princess type of thing. So we have, we got some of that set up there. And this whole thing, and like Brooke's going to have a little bit of like an internal crisis in a moment. And like, so we have Usopp asking him about this. And of course, like, Usopp did step in. He did try to step in, and he did, scolded Emu through Gunko and everything. Which kind of brought us to the situation we're currently in right now, but still, valid question there, Usopp. And then Nami's like, Brook kind of isn't answering. He's like, and like, kind of like, I guess, conforming his thoughts or something. And then Nami is there, and we have Sanji standing over them because like Brook and Usopp are lying down on the ground because they got really beat up by Emu, and like, Luffy got them out of there. Got beat up by Gunko Emu, and then Luffy got them out of there, and then him and Loki defeated Gunko Emu essentially, and then Emu showed up. But Luffy got Brook and Usopp back over to the rest of the Straw Hats, to Jinbei and Nami. And we're gonna see Frankie in a second. I think the only Straw Hat we don't see in this chapter is Zoro. And Zoro and Kashi, I think, were on their way to go. No, Zoro and Goldberg were on their way to go try to deal with Summers at the port, is where they were headed. So we don't see Zoro in this chapter, but I think we see all the rest of the Straw Hats. Well, we don't see Luffy in this chapter either, but I think we see the rest of the Straw Hats. For where they are at the moment. But we know Luffy is probably still over in the school trying to chow down on a bunch of the food. So we have Nami asking, do you know her, Brook? Like an enemy you fought long ago? And this is kind of bringing up the fact that, like, yeah, the Straw Hats know a bit about Brook's past. They know how he died. They know about the Rumbar Pirates and Laboon and him being trapped in the Florian Triangle and everything, trapped in the, in the fog and everything there for, 50 years, for like 48 years and everything, for 50 years, excuse me. So we know that, and like the Straw Hats know that, and like Brook had told them, after Luffy had asked him to join the crew, after they gotten his shadow back and defeated Moria and everything, he's like, I used to be the leader of a battle convoy from a kingdom in the West Blue. But he never said the name of the kingdom, and beyond that, we never got too much other information. We just knew that much information from way back in Thriller Bark when he told us that. And then when we got the little bits of snippets of flashback that we saw, that's like silhouette flashback from Gunko and Brook, of Gunko and Brook walking with her as a little kid and him super tall, which we'll get a full view of that image here in a little bit, of him saying, I've dreamed of being a pirate my whole life, I want to be a pirate type of a thing. So we're having this where it's just kind of this valid question of like Brook lived like a life before everything happened, where he joined the Rumbar Pirates, or the Rumbar Pirates set themselves up. Which we might get some information about that. Get some hints of what happened in this chapter for that. So Brook keeps going. Brook starts talking, and he's like, not an enemy, just someone I never imagined to see again. But this situation has left me confused. And like, him and Usopp are lying on the ground, and Brook is just like contemplating what's going on. It's like, because if it's really her, she should be 77 now. So we get the confirmation that Gunko should be 77 years old right now, which means she's 13 years younger than Brook. Easy math there. And they're like, wait, what? And Nami's like, but so that's someone else, right? She's a celestial dragon after all. And Brook continues, and then back then she was the princess of my homeland. I never saw her again after she left for the Holy Land. So we're getting this confirmation. I know that there were like these theories of like, oh my god, Brook was a celestial dragon. He was a god's knight or something like that, because of like the sword that he used in the silhouette looked very similar to the swords. Excuse me. Hellspawn pollen. I'm still dealing with it. I hate this time of year because of the pollen. Other than that, I generally don't mind it. It's the pollen, and it's just extra bad this year, and I don't know why. Sorry. So there was like the theory that like, Brook might be a member of the Figureland family because of the silhouette, the sword that we saw him have in the silhouette, that it looked very similar to like Garling and Shamrock and Shanks' swords that they use. So there was like that little theory there, and then of course, Gunko's a celestial dragon, so there's that, and then there's this, but then it's just like, but if she was this Princess Shuri, which we're getting confirmation that she was this Princess Shuri from, 77, from way back when, that she would have been this princess of Brook's, home. And, you know, we know that Emu has a bit of a proclivity for women who have blue hair. He likes, you know, he liked Lily way back when. He's still obsessed with her. Wants Vivi. Gunko has blue hair that is very similar in color. He better the heck never find out about Nojiko, although he might go a bit easy on Buggy because Buggy has blue hair as well. But he better never the heck find out about Nojiko. Um, but like there's this whole concept of like, you know, like was Brooke a celestial dragon? No. Gunko was not born a celestial dragon, or Princess Shuri was not born a celestial dragon. We're going to see that here. Assumedly what happens, and I'll go over that when the general assumption of what's going to happen we'll get to in a moment. So now we have Frankie running back over to the group, and he's like, Brooke, that woman's still frozen solid. Her condition's unknown, but if this keeps up. And then Usopp goes, so basically, that celestial dragon is the spitting image of someone you know, but that doesn't change the fact that she came here to attack Elbath. And Brooke goes, however, the one who untied the ropes, binding us earlier, was most definitely her. And we have like the little flashback of like, you know, the arrow loops popping off of all of the Straw Hats, and then cutting back to Brooke, and it's just like, why would she do something like that? And we see, you know, Brooke with, you know, the ropes coming off of her as she's like pushing off, you know, she's like trying to like push off Emu's control enough to let Brooke get out of the arrow binding. She's like, get away, Brooke. Like the fact that she knows his, you know, his name in this regard, as opposed to just Soul King Brooke and all of that stuff. And like this, you know, we get kind of the look of desperation on her face that we kind of saw earlier when she was trying to like push through the control that Emu had over her, the possession that Emu had over her, in order to release Brooke and the others from the arrows. And it's just like, how could she possibly know who I am? And it's like, and then she transformed into that demonic form again. It's the again part there that I'm sure people are going to be like, so somehow she got possessed prior to this by Emu, and then Emu, through her, probably did the patricide of her father, of the king that was like Brooke's benefactor, is probably what we're going to get here. And he continues, her initial personality, the persona that saved us, and that demonic form, it's almost as though there were 3 distinct personalities, or personas. Now, with Blackbeard, we know that there are like those 3 distinct personalities that we've, you know, supposedly seen, or that there's the theory of. With this, we are seeing that there are these 3 distinct personalities within Gunko. There is her initial personality, the one that she had when they first arrived at Elbath, with her trying to get Brooke to be her slave, with her going after the children, all of that stuff. Then we have the personality that saved us, which is when it's the Shuri personality. So there's like the Gunko personality, and that's what she's kind of like manipulated, programmed to be in, you know, the celestial dragon personality. Then there's the Princess Shuri personality, that is the persona that saved us. And that persona is the one that we saw pop up initially when she had shot down, when she attacked Scopper, and then had Colin yelling for his dad, and it's her, you know, remembering calling for her own father. As he supposedly is dying at her own hand. So there's like that personality, and that same personality popped up, pushed its way through from Emu in order to, you know, release Brooke and the other Straw Hats that had been trapped in her arrow powers. So there's that. And then there's the demonic form. So that's the Gunko Emu one. That is the one that is Emu controlling Gunko, possessing Gunko, and using her as a conduit for Emu's powers, for his powers. So we have that. So those are like the 3 distinct personalities. And Nami goes, what does that mean? She's being controlled? And Brooke continues, but back then, we never considered that possibility. But after seeing people turn into demons here today, I can't shake this horrible feeling in my chest. And so this means that there's that way back when, before Brooke became a pirate, and he's like, we never considered. So assumingly this means Brooke and whoever else were in the kingdom at the time when everything happened, with Gunko going crazy, with Gunko being possessed and destroying, could have just very easily been that Emu showed up somehow and Domi reversied Gunko. We don't know the full concept of this. Domi reversied Shuri and made her go and attack her own father and all of that. We don't know, because Brooke's like, but with people turning into demons here now, there's this horrible feeling in my chest. And like we see like the fires are still burning in the background here. Assumedly Zeus might be still going out and trying to like stop the fires. And Jinbei's like, this ain't good, Brooke. Decide quickly. Do we keep her alive or finish her off? If you don't decide, we can't act either. And Brooke is like bashing his hands on the ground. He's like, this was long ago. Long ago. Truly long ago. Back then, she was just a little girl, and I was young too. And then a fallen kingdom of Asperia, the musically vibrant kingdom packed with instrument craftsmen. So this is where we finally get the name of the kingdom that Brooke had grown up in, that he was born in, Asperia. We'll get to the name in a second, because I looked up a few things and I found a really good theory that I like. So we'll see what happens. A theory that I like, but I don't know how much water it's going to hold, but we'll see. So it's just like Brooke is like trembling as he's saying this. So it is literally like him going, this was so long ago that this happened. This was like 70 something years ago that this would have happened. Something along those lines, 60, 70 something years ago that like all of that would have happened. And we're cutting back in time because like the others are listening. And we're cutting back in time to the West Village, West Blue, 70 years ago at 4 a.m. Thank you, Brooke. 4 a.m. And we have like the singing going on, and we have people going, God, no, not the singing again. And we see Brooke singing, and this is a very young version of Brooke. This is going to be 20-year-old Brooke singing, and he's like, morning sky aglow, good morning, mermaid. Nobody knows the secrets that she holds. We're going to do a horrible rendition of this. I doubt I'll be the only YouTuber attempting to sing this, but I don't know what melody we're going with. We could also just go with a very downtrodden melody of so many oceans still unknown. But this seems like it's supposed to be a very upbeat song. I want to see them on my own. Good morning, mermaid. Again, I apologize for however bad my singing is, however off-key I am. I apologize. My father would be disappointed in me. Nah, he wouldn't. My dad sings in the choir at church. So he's singing, and he's going through the town, going through the kingdom, and he's just like singing as he goes. And it's like, good morning, Asperia. No more sitting around waiting for the wind. Let's hit the seas again today, baby. The back streets. And we see a couple of guys, like one of them seems okay with the music, and the other one's like, keep it down, I've got a hangover. And we see other ones like dogs, howling, and people going, shut up. And we see like little girl waking up in her room. It's like, morning, Brooke. Is she like, I don't know if this is supposed to be Shuri or just another girl, but it looks very much like it's supposed to be Shuri. And it's like, the back streets, the ports, the arena. And we see like this giant arena that looks like it has like a giant harp on it, which is fun. And then we have a big panel of Brooke jumping into the air in a very similar Nika pose. I know that there's a pose similar to this that he does in one of the manga panels, and I was trying to find the anime panel for it, or the anime screen grab for it, and I couldn't find it because it is very similar to this. It's like him jumping into the air with like his legs in the very similar Nika position. Obviously, his arms aren't out because he's playing his violin as he's going. But it's like him jumping and like he's backed by the sun in this image as it's rising over the kingdom with him singing, and it's like, good day, I want to meet a sexy mermaid. And they're like, shut it, Brooke. It's the great Brooke. Throw me out of the battle chorus. Or just like some people are not happy about this. And then it's like, soul gets ripped away, bad ending. Yeah, that's gonna be your ending. And then someone's going to like, bring me a gun, like, get me out of here. It's like, this is the land of instrument craftsmen, the kingdom of Asperia. So, I want to go a little bit into the name here first. So, I wanted to point out a couple of things here first. So, first of all, we have a fair amount of people that we have met from the East Blue. That is, like, we've met a good chunk of people we've met a lot of people from the East Blue. We've met a good chunk of people from the West Blue as well, which is where this is. So we have Ohara, God Valley, the Kano Kingdom. We have the Fire Tank Pirates for Beiji and all of his crew, and we're going to get into some gangs in this flashback in a moment. We have the Rumbar Pirates, obviously. We have the Thriller Bark Pirates. That's all of Moria and his crew are all from the West Blue to the best of our knowledge. So we've met a good chunk of people that are from the West Blue. Ohara is gone. God Valley is gone. We know Kano is kind of like an ally because of Sai and the Hapu Navy. And Fire Tank Pirates are not necessarily an ally anymore. They were kind of an ally during Whole Cake Island in regards to taking down Big Mom and getting out of Totland. But I don't know if we can still fully consider them an ally or not. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if they ever show back up again. But we've met a fair amount of people from the West Blue. That's one of the more seas that we've met a lot. We've also met a lot of people from the North Blue. I think the South Blue is the one that we have like the least amount from, but I could be wrong. And of course, there's like all the people that are from the various islands in the Grand Line, obviously. But I wanted to point out Asperia. So, there's several things that come up when I was looking up Asperia. So, A, it's a municipality in the province of Frosinone, I apologize, in the Italian region of Lazio. So there's not much there. There is a premium rum called Asperia. Okay, I have no interest in rum. And then Asperia is a manufacturer of spacecrafts and spacecraft weapons in a video game series called Star Citizen that is a multiplayer space trading and combat simulation video game. I don't know if you can hear it, but there are birds chirping outside the window, so I think the rain is possibly done. And the birds are chirping again, so that's good luck for Chip, because it means I'll take him on a WALK when I'm all done with this. But so those are a couple of things that Asperia kind of represented, or that I could find. The other thing that was like the little theory that I found that's kind of like bubbling up because of Asperia in this right now is I was looking up, like I was just trying to look up Asperia, and then of course a theory popped up based on like the spoilers that had come out for the chapter already at that time. And for anybody who might be vaguely familiar with some Greek mythology, there are the 12 labors of Hercules. Most people know who Hercules is. Do I have Hercules in my little mythology guidebook? I think so. Where is Hercules? Where is Hercules? I think he's in here. Be back here in Heroes, I think. One moment. There is a point to this madness. I promise you. There is a point to this. Okay, so we're going to point out two things. No, maybe just one. We might go back to that later. Nope, that's... First of all, how many people are familiar with golden apples? So, golden apples pop up several times in various myths. So, first we're going to go to Hercules. One of Hercules' labors is he has to go and get a golden apple from the Hesperides. Is one of his labors. And the apples are guarded by a dragon that he ends up slaying in the process. This is when he has to do a few other things in order to get the apples. So the Garden of the Hesperides, the golden apples of the Hesperides, are I think, if I'm remembering correctly, they're daughters of Atlas. And they guard the golden apples, and the golden apples were a gift to Hera from her grandmother Gaia when Hera and Zeus married, because that was such a wonderful marriage to have. And they have the Garden of the Hesperides, which is the westernmost part of the known world in the ancient Greek world, which is present-day Morocco. And the Hesperides nymphs were tasked with guarding the apples. The theory that I found, which I liked, was that Oda draws a lot of inspiration from Greek mythology, not just Greek mythology, but lots of mythology, because there's also at least two other places. There's another one in Greek mythology itself that is Paris and the Golden Apple, which leads, of course, into the Trojan War, where he is given a golden apple by Eris, who is the goddess of chaos, and he's supposed to pick the most beautiful goddess, and he has to pick between Athena, Aphrodite, and Hera. And they each make him promises, and Aphrodite wins because she promises him that he can go and marry Helen of Troy. Yeah, she's already married as Helen of Sparta. So yeah, that went well. And then we have the Greek and then we have the Trojan War and everything. The other one that I wanted to point out in regards to golden apples, which is something that I vaguely remember because my nephew asked me about it. He was talking about golden apples, and he asked me about one of them, and I'm like, well, what you're thinking of, if I'm correct, are in Norse mythology, there is... Oh, come on, I know it's here somewhere. Oh, come on. Where did it go? I know I had it here somewhere. Mark pages beforehand. What do you mean beforehand? That's Demeter and Persephone. That's Romulus and Remus. That's Native American. Come on. That's Artemis. That's just gods causing problems. I mean, this is what I was looking for. Idun. Golden apples. Idun is one of the goddesses in Norse mythology. And if I'm remembering correctly, it's her job to tend the golden apples that the gods eat in order to, I believe, stay alive. Or to stay immortal. And stay young and stay immortal. So she is a very vital part of that. If I'm remembering correctly. Again, it's been a little while since I've read through some of the Norse mythology, but that seems to be the right answer. And of course, Loki at one point steals all of the golden apples, because he's Loki, and he got bored. And by Loki, I mean Loki from Norse mythology Loki, not this Loki in One Piece right now. And I went off on a Norse mythology, Greek mythology tangent, which is par for the course for me. But the thought that I saw in the theory was that Oda might be basing the kingdom of Hesperia as like a possible origin point for devil fruits. And I'm like, I guess that's a possibility, so I did want to point it out. But we'll have to see how that kind of plays out. But I did want to at least point that out a little bit here. Back into this. Sorry, this is going to be a bit of a long one, I guess. So we have, the brook jumping into the sky, backed by the sun, as he's jumping over the kingdom and singing and everything. And it's the kingdom of Hesperia, the land of instrument craftsmen. So we have Brooke showing up at the military quarters, Hesperia Palace, and all of the men are just like, oh, Captain, come on, teach us your slice style too, swift style. Just come on, please teach us. And we don't see Brooke's face for a little bit in this chapter, as him as young. And he's like walking around, and we see all of them like fawning over him. And it's just like, you sure dote on Princess Shuri. Quit whining. You want me to teach you. Learn the basics first. So Brooke is just like, you want me to teach you how to do my slicing techniques. You got to learn the basic stuff first. So he's just like walking through, and he's like, humming and singing to himself. And he's got a little girl that he's walking with him, which is, of course, Princess Shuri, very similar to like what we saw in her little version of the flashback. And it's just like, now then, what are we eating tonight? I'm starving. And it's just like, carrying Bink sake for you. And we cut to a full page, or a long page spread, where we see Brooke. This is beyond the Oda drawing Brooke as a little kid, and then him popping up in like, I think one of the openings or the endings as like a little kid. This is the youngest we have ever seen Brooke. He doesn't have a scar on his face, and he's not wearing his trademark sunglasses. And this is the first time that we have seen Brooke's eyes. And he generally just looks like he has normal eyes. He doesn't have like weird emu twirly eyes or whatever with the rings in them. And we have him walking, and he's got like the very nice military outfit that we've seen him, that we see here. A bit similar to what we see Shanks and Shamrock wear, but not exactly. But we see the very nice outfit and the nice long sword that he uses. And he's walking, and he's, holding the hand of Princess Shuri, who's walking next to him, who has her own little, sword that is far too big for her in all honesty, but adorable. And they're singing, and I believe they're singing Bink Sake, or just making something up. And it's just like, sailing the whole day through, leave it to the waves and breeze, past the tide, dusk sings with ease. And Shuri is singing, birds keep singing as they fly, drawing circles way up high. And we have Kingdom of Asperia, Royal Escort Corps Captain Brooke, age 20. Kingdom of Asperia, Princess Shuri, age 7. And she's like, you're amazing. You're amazing again today. And it's just like, think all that hard work paid off. Think all that hard work paid off, just like Mom. So this is Shuri talking, and then we have Brooke going into lovey-dovey, very similar to Sanji mode. It's like, your mom's super strong, and Lady Candle, the light of my life. The way it's spelled here is Candyl, and then I also saw it is spelled Candel. So it's like Candiel, so I don't know if it's spelled the pronounced the exact same way as like a candle, but fair. And Brooke has gone like all lovey-dovey, and Shuri's like, falling for someone's wife is dangerous, Brooke. And it's just like, dangerous? How? Love is free. And then we get to this very tough and mean-looking guy who is the king of the kingdom, and he's got the crown on his head, and he's got very flyaway hair, and he's like sharpening. It looks like he's sharpening knives. He has like hedge trimmers is what he's using, and he's like trimming hedges, and he's like trimming leaves in the garden, trimming some of the hedges in the garden. And he goes, death penalty sounds dangerous enough. And they're like, Brooke's like, penalty, yikes, boss, no, I mean, your majesty. And then Shuri's like, Papa, she's jumping up to see her father, which is adorable. And we have Kingdom of Asperia, King Rowan, Ruwen, Ruwen is the way that it's spelled in this translation. We'll see how it ends up going. I looked it up. It means like rough. And he looks like a pretty rough guy. He's got like the usual king, the crown, and he's got like the cloak. But other than that, he's like wearing like a tank top and like not expensive looking pants. Like Brooke looks like he's dressed better than the king, if not for the cape, not for the cloak. And the king's out just like trimming the hedges in the garden, which is just funny. And Brooke's like, or the king is like, you're plotting my assassination, aren't you? And Brooke's like, absolutely not. That's awful. I'll wait until your time comes naturally. So Brooke has this huge crush on the queen, which is fair. We'll see her in a moment. Has this huge crush on the queen, which is just funny. And Shuri is just like, yay, Brooke, hey, just forgot about my mom. And she's like, in return, when I grow up, I'll marry you instead. And we have the king just starts crying. And it's just like, hey, Shuri, that's the kind of cute thing daughters say to their dads. So we get that. And then Brooke's like, yeah, no thanks. I don't want a wife who's a total wet blanket. It's just like, yeah, no, I don't want that. And then we just have this moment of like the king is just like kicking Brooke in the face. Or well, I think he's kicking Brooke or Brooke just dodges. I'm not sure. One of the two. Either one is funny. And the king's like, hey, how dare you dump my daughter in front of me? And Brooke's like, I'm devoted to only one woman. And Sherry's just laughing her ass off in the back. Off on the side, which is just funny. And then we have one of the other guards runs in and it's like, Your Majesty's apologies for interrupting your fun moment. So apparently this is probably just like something that happens a lot in this kingdom where they're just used to Brooke crushing on the queen. To be fair, a lot of people in this kingdom and other places seem to have crushes on the queen, where they have crushes on the queen, Brooke has crushes on the queen, and the king just gets annoyed at him, but Brooke is still clearly loyal to them. And then Shuri just finds us all exceedingly entertaining, which is just extra funny. So we have the guy running up, and he's like, gang cavalry, a gang cavalry, probably like the cavalry gang, unit is moving from the port toward the town. The escort corps are in town, but they're badly outnumbered. Reinforcements from the port are on the way, but they probably won't make it in time. And we get this little map of the island, and we have like this little gang showing up. Now, the West Blue is clearly a place that has a gang problem, because Beji is from the West Blue, and we have the part of his backstory is that he like defeated each, like assassinated each of the different heads of the 5 different crime families in the West Blue, and then he took over, and then he got bored, so he became a pirate. So we have that, and then we have Don Marlin, who was also from the West Blue, from the Rocks Pirates, who had been like the leader of like the mob and such in the West Blue in his time frame. Now, there's a whole theory that like Marlin and Beji might be related. I don't think they're related, but I think maybe Beji may have idolized Marlin. I don't think they're related, but I think he just like idolized him maybe and like worked in his footsteps and like, achieved essentially the same thing. So we know that crime bosses and the mafia and stuff like that are very prominent in the West Blue. So we know that. So I at least wanted to point that out because we've got like a lot of things with that throughout the course of the story with Beji and Marlin and stuff like that. So I wanted to point that out. And we get this map of the island. We see like little gang is attacking them at the port town. And then we have like the opera house. And then we have like the palace. And the palace has like the huge harp as part of it, which is where they currently are. So the cavalry gang or the gang cavalry, whichever, are like making their way through the port town, through the town to try to get to the opera house. And the king's like, what's their target? And while watching the opera in town, they kept yelling Queen Kendall's name. So they're on their way to the opera house. And they're just like, what did you say? Was it the Muron, Muuron gang? Again, I don't know. It's not Marlin. Marlin, I guess, could be a child at this point in time. I don't know how old. I don't know if we ever know how old Marlin is when everything happens, before he's killed by Ochoko. It's like, that's right. Those bastards have been after Candle for years. How did they get here without us knowing, without us noticing? It's like, send word to Candle not to leave the opera house. And they're like, okay, the opera house, and Mushi is in silent mode. So it's like on airplane mode. It's like on do not disturb. And the king's like freaking out. And Gunko's looking at Brooke and it was like, Brooke, do something. They're going to take away Mom. And Brooke is kind of like, the Maroon gang? Something feels off. I ran into them in the port earlier today. So we see like the gang are like rushing through the town down Opera Street as they're making their way through, and like the citizens are trying to get out of the way. And they're like, oh my god, it's the gang cavalry. As they're like running through, and we see inside the opera house, or we see like the outside of the opera house, and we see like inside the queen is singing and everything, I think. Or she's either just at the opera house watching the opera, or she is performing. I'm not sure which. But like, we see like the crowd And we have, a little bit of a appearance of the queen with very long hair. And she's like, oh, truly a splendid show. And we have like the mafia guys have shown up outside. One of them has they have zebras. I just noticed that. They are riding on zebras. I love that. Yes, zebras. I don't know why they have zebras, but they have zebras. And it's just like, now then, come out, Candle. Boss Maroon's orders are clear. If she refuses, we shoot. And it's just like, today's the day we settle this. You're going to pay for deceiving our boss, Candle. And one of the guards is just like, Your Majesty must not leave the opera house. And he gets shot. And the king is talking to Brooke, and he's just like, Brooke! And Brooke is like, it'll be fine, Your Majesty. Her Highness is incredibly strong. She won't be captured so easily. More importantly, their failure to notice is concerning, even after meeting me at the port. And like the king and Gunko or the king and Shuri are both kind of crying, crying with worry at this. And then we get the last double page spread of the chapter, and we have Brooke going, I already sliced them apart. Huh? And we see like all of them are just like, as soon as like Brooke says that, it's like it's the old anime thing of just like, oh, you won't notice I've sliced you until I've like fully clicked my sword back into place. I think we've seen Zoro use this before, and I know we've seen Brooke use this technique before. It's like the 3-verse humming arrow notch slash is what he does. There's a few other bits where it's like he will slice up a bunch of people or whatever he's fighting, and then he lands, and then he like sheaths his sword, and then they feel the cut hit them type of thing. Or it's just like they were hit so skillfully that they don't know they're cut until it's far too late type of a thing. And in this case, it's like they don't know they're cut and they're still running around on their zebras. And they're just like, as the cuts are hitting them. And it's like, what's this? Could these guys, they've already been sliced apart. What was Captain Brooks' quick draw? That was Captain Brooks' quick slash. And we see like a bunch of the citizens are like, oh my god, they're already defeated. And it's like, it's humming 3 blocks, arrow not slash. So it's like they can go 3 blocks and then it instantly hits them that they've been sliced, is I guess what the case is. And it's like, Sir Brooke, he's so cool. So they're just like praising Brooke. And now we have like the queen is coming out of the opera house. And it's just like, oh, Her Majesty stepped out. Oh, stunning. And it's just like, other people are just, oh my god, she's so beautiful and so cool and everything. And we have back in the kingdom of Asperia, 70 years ago, 2 stars shined above others. One was Kendall, the former captain of the Royal Escort Corps and Asperia's current queen. And we have her, and we have like this, beautiful, look of her. She's in the very similar military look outfit that we saw Brooke in. She has very long hair. She probably is going to end up looking a bit like Gunko. I won't be surprised if she has blue hair too, the same way that like Gunko does. I won't be surprised if she has blue hair, like Gunko. And it's just like, lively as ever. And we have Kingdom of Asperia, Queen Kendall. The other ones, music may be unpopular. Give him 70 years, he'll be popular. But his targets don't even realize they've been sliced. The captain of the surprise attack unit, Brooke of the Humming Blades, famed by the title Swift Slash. At the time, the kingdom was at peace. So we see, so we're getting this answer of like, the queen is probably very powerful in her own right, very strong in her own right. And we have Brooke here, who is, he's older than Luffy currently is. He's the same age as Nami. This Brooke in this flashback is the same age that Nami currently is. So it's a very interesting concept here. Again, we'll get hopefully more in the next chapter. There's no break next week, so we'll see what happens next. I talked about the elephant stuff. We've always known that music is very important to Oda in regards to stuff, so we'll have to see if there's anything in regards to, like, someone's probably going to dissect those Good Morning Mermaid lyrics once we get a little bit more accurate translation of them. But we'll see what happens there. I don't know. I did want to point this out just because Disney dork here. For many reasons. So Kendall, the way that it's initially spelled for part of the translation kind of made it type in as candelabra. And of course, the only singing candelabra I could come up with that's associated with music is Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast, because I'm a dork. Because I'm a Disney nerd and a Disney adult, and I'm proud of it. And I mean, like, Lumiere loves music and, singing and all of that stuff. There's a whole Be Our Guest sequence in the movie. So it's just like, I don't know if there's, I guess it's a possibility that her name is just literally Candle. And it could be just like that because she's like this bright, shining light of the kingdom that's probably going to end up getting snuffed out, unfortunately, by Emu. So we'll have to see what happens there. So that's what I have here. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of the day. And again, thank you to everybody who has subscribed. And if you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate it. Okay, bye.